Hello and welcome to Wizards, Warriors, and Words, a fantasy writing advice podcast. My name is Jed Herne, author of The Thunder Heist, and I'm joined today by my co-hosts, starting with Mike.
Hey, Michael R. Fletcher, author of Beyond Redemption and some other stuff.
Dirk.
I am Rob Hayes, taking over for Dirk Ashton today because he was busy beekeeping.
Lazy sod.
What a specific example. I love that. He probably is beekeeping. I could see that. And we are joined by a very special guest, Anthony Ryan. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Hello, Anthony Ryan, the author of The Raven Shadow series, the author of the Draconis Memoria trilogy, The Raven's Blade, and most recently, the Pariah, which is the first in the Covenant of Steel trilogy.
Awesome. Anthony, thanks so much for joining us on the show. Very excited for this. I read, like I was saying before we hit record, I read Bloodsong a few years ago and I really enjoyed it. So really looking forward to digging into your writing approach today. And I thought in today's episode, we could kind of discuss a bit of your journey from the indie publishing world as one of the kind of path forgers in that, I suppose, to traditional publishing. Because as Dirk was saying before the episode, I'll let Dirk explain it rather than paraphrase your thoughts, Dirk. Do you want to repeat what you were saying earlier?
Yes. I remember when well before I actually even considered writing, believe it or not, I had picked up, saw a recommendation for Bloodsong and had picked it up. And it was only later that I learned that Anthony was one of the groundbreakers, or one of the earliest people who had been an independent author, who then went trad afterwards. Names we've all heard, Anthony Ryan, of course, Andy Weir, Hugh Howey, and I've been reminded Jeff Wheeler was indie early on. So those were like in kind of the Wild West days where it was pretty be kind of standard that if you were going to go indie, you were going to get ignored by trad. But there were these few groundbreakers who really kind of set a path that a lot of people that we know now have followed. So I'd love to know kind of what it was like in the Wild West of old indie to trad.
Yeah, I have to say, I had it far easier than most self-publishers, certainly most self-publishers today. And I think, to be honest, even more easy. It was easier when I started out. Getting traction today seems far harder than it was back in. I published Bloodsong on Smashwords, which I'm sure you all know is an aggregator for self-published books. I published it in the middle of 2011. And from 2011, this was after I'd spent, the standard year querying agents and getting nowhere, as you have to. There's like a law that says you have to do that. And pretty much, I got a load of rejection letters. This is when you got letters in the post and everything. It was actual paper.
10 years ago.
Yeah, I got enough of them to wallpaper a part of my bedroom. Bloodsong did the rounds around agents. This was all in the UK. I didn't send it to any US agents. Maybe I should have. But anyway, I sent it to pretty much every agent in the UK who dealt in fantasy, and they all sent it back. With either a form rejection and a couple of, nice, we like this, but we're not taking any more fantasy at the moment, that kind of thing. I'd been seeing that self-publishing was becoming more viable. I think this was after Hugh Howey had sort of blazed a bit of a trail with Wool and a few others. I think Amanda Hocking had just got a pretty big deal at the time. She was probably the first big name to get, lured out of self-publishing. And, I thought, why not? I've got this, 200,000 word book sitting here. Might as well do something with it. I'd written other things before, which if I'm, with the benefit of hindsight, I knew looking back that they weren't very good. You know, even the things I finished, they weren't really worthy of being published. But with Blood Song, I felt I had something. You know, I just had this feeling that it could, you know, if it was given a chance, it might get somewhere. So I put it up on Smashwords, and I didn't click. At the time on Smashwords, you couldn't publish to Amazon via Smashword. So it didn't go up on the Amazon store. We just went to all the other stores, you know, Smashwords publishers do. And from, I think, July to December of 2011, it sold 5 copies, which, you know, actually is 5 more than I expected to sell. I was surprisingly delighted with selling 5 copies. But then, you know, I started looking more seriously at it because I wasn't really doing much in the way of publicity. I wasn't really pushing it at all. And I'd made some serious mistakes. I hadn't, you know, gone and got a professional to do my cover, and I hadn't had it professionally proofread. So frankly, the manuscript was riddled with mistakes. And I did the cover myself, which the nicest thing anyone ever said about my own cover was, "I've seen worse."
Bit of a backhanded insult there. Backhanded compliment.
But you're actually a hell of an artist.
Yeah, I can draw, I can't paint. That's the thing. If I could paint, I might do my own covers. I can't paint worth a damn, and to do a fantasy cover, you really need to be able to paint. Yeah. So I did a sort of 3D mock-up cover. I mean, to be honest, I don't think it's terrible, but it's, you know, it's not of publishable quality, put it that way. But anyway, along came 2012, and I thought, having looked more seriously into it, about what was involved in doing things right, I thought I'd give it a go on the Kindle store. In the first month on the Kindle store, with my own cover and it not being proofread, it still managed to sell 20 copies, which was, 4 times more than I'd sold in 6 months. The month after, and I got my first 5-star reviews. I think I got 5 5-star reviews in the first month or something, which seemed incredible at the time. No 1 stars and no 4 stars and all that. So, and then, February, I think it sold 150 copies, and in March it sold 400. And by the time May rolled around, I think in the month of May alone, it sold 15,000 copies.
Wow.
So that sort of thing, they just built and built, and then it exploded, kind of thing. And I don't, to this day, I wish I knew why.
I was going to ask that question. So thanks for stalling that.
Capture it in a bottle and say why it worked, despite all the problems with it. I got a lot of complaints about the proofreading. I did my best to fix it and put up an improved manuscript with the spelling errors taken out and all of that kind of thing. I did start a blog. I had a website, and I was getting a lot of interaction on it, a lot of clicks on it. But in terms of publicity, this was all before paid ads were a thing. And this, before, I wasn't even on Twitter at the time. To be honest, I don't think Twitter is actually a very good sales platform anyway. It's good for interaction, but it's not an advertising platform. But it was word of mouth or word of forum or whatever. It was people telling their friends, "You should read this; it's good." And that's really where it took off. And it was towards the end of May, I think, that I got an email out of the blue from Penguin or Ace Rock asking if I'd like to have a conversation. And the rest is history, I guess.
What was that
point?
What was that moment like when you saw that email? What went through your head?
Well, I dropped my phone. Doesn't work. Got this email pinged on my phone, picked it up and dropped my I didn't break it, fortunately.
A lot of people I've asked, they're like, "Well, I didn't think it was real. I thought it was one of my friends
scam or something.
Fucking with me." Yeah. So
I thought just there's a sort of inkling that maybe this is a joke, but I did a Google search. It was from Susan Allison, who's since retired, but she was senior editor at Ace. And, a simple Google search will tell you if it's a real person or not. And the email seemed legit and so on, yeah. So I emailed her back, and we, over the course of about a month, we went back and forth and eventually ended up with a publishing contract.
Nice. Did you have an agent at that time?
I didn't. I do think I probably should have gone and got one. Yeah, I mean, it's not like I got screwed on the contract or anything. I don't really have any complaints. It was a standard contract, but there were a few things in it that would have been different if I'd gone and got an agent, and maybe I'd have got a bigger advance. I probably would. Right. But when it was traditionally published, the advances I got, they all earned out on day one because of the pre-orders. So I wasn't really that fussed about not getting some six-figure sum or anything. Mm-hmm. Money-wise, I really can't complain. But yeah, I would advise people, if you do get an offer from traditional publishing, get an agent.
Yeah.
I know some people say you don't need them, they're practicing law without a license and all of this. I don't actually subscribe to that. One of the larger agencies, I'm with Jean-Claude Nesbitt, one of the larger agencies in New York, and they have their own legal department with qualified lawyers, so it's not like it's some guy in an office, it's
the garage Googling legal documents and trying to make sure you don't get screwed over.
It's very similar to Jonathan French's story, except who did The Gray Bastards. He was in the SPFBO when I was in and won that year, and it was the same thing. He got an email, and I remember him throwing up a post in the little group we were in. Guys, I just got this email from this person. Is this person real? And then it's like, oh my God, this is the same. It was the same editor who had worked with Andy Weir. So, but he and the editor actually said, is it okay with you if I put this out to a bunch of agents that I know, and see if they're interested, and tell them if they are to contact you, and you can pick one that you like, because you should have an agent. So I thought that was interesting that they went that route, that they actually wanted him to have an agent before they even made an offer. So, but that was only a couple of years ago. You were way ahead of that.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, at the time, the self-publishing is a different landscape than it is today. I think.
Oh yeah.
It was easier. If you put something on the Kindle store and it was any good, someone somewhere would read it, and it would go from there. It wasn't a guarantee of success, because in publishing there are no guarantees of success. Mm-hmm. Back then, you had much better odds of getting noticed if you had something good. Mm-hmm. As it is today, there's an awful lot of crap on there, but that's true of publishing anyway. You had a better chance of getting noticed if you had something good. I think today there's so much. The Kindle store is so huge, and the struggle to get eyeballs on things is so difficult that it's. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not starting today, to be honest. I don't envy people who are starting today.
One thing another thing that I think that makes you stand out a lot as a very successful trad author is that you are one of the most supportive trad authors on the entire internet of indie self-published authors. I just see it all over your Twitter feed, sometimes on the Instagram, and I really appreciate that personally. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And you've done blurbs for several self-published novels like mine. I'm pretty sure I've seen your name on Dirk's books.
Oh yeah,
which is kind of amazing. There are not a lot of writers at your level that are sort of approachable on that level.
Yeah,
Just
well, I do remember what it was like. And I was never really one for forums or things or being in groups. To be honest, I don't like Facebook to this day. I'm on it because I use the ads platform, but as a site, I don't like it. But I've never been really one for doing all of that. But I do remember just how hard it was to get noticed, and if I read something and I like it, I'll tell people about it, and I don't care if it's self-published. I don't think readers care if it's self-published. I think it's incumbent upon self-publishers to make their book as indistinguishable from a traditionally published book as possible.
Yep.
But if you did that, then readers don't care. I mean, how many readers look at who published this book? They look at the author name. Mm-hmm. They look at the blurb and they look at the cover. That's what they care about. And if it's good, it should sell. And that's not always the case, obviously, but it should. And if I read something good, and I will do my best to tell people about it.
Well, I'm just going to take a little moment to kind of fanboy squee. It's really, really an honor to have you on this show. It's unbelievable. I couldn't believe it when Mike said, "Oh, yeah, Anthony said he was going to do it." I was like, "What?"
Mike's quite good at blackmailing people, so I assume he has
I
some
don't
of
know.
your family hostage.
Yeah, I don't know.
A pet or something like that.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what he has over you guys or bribes you with, but maybe I don't want to know. But I certainly appreciate it. It's you don't do a lot of interviews, do you?
To be honest, I do them usually when I'm asked.
Do you?
I actually get asked that often, believe it or not.
Okay.
You might after this show.
Yeah, after
this.
I
do a lot more. Tend to do a lot more print interviews. They send you a list of questions. I kind of like those because you just get more chance to think about things. You could come across being really erudite.
Use the thesaurus to look up all the fancy words, find some interesting quotes from old philosophers.
Questions though, over and over and over again, just eventually broke me. I kind of stopped doing print interviews because it's every time it's like, oh, where do you get your ideas from? It's like,
no, that's easy, Mike. I just have a bank of answers and I copy and paste.
Oh, that's smart.
I stole a line from Neil Gaiman. There's a line in Sandman about, I don't know if you've read Sandman, but the one where the guy gets cursed with ideas, the horrible writer who imprisons the muse in his attic. He gets cursed with ideas. There's a line in there, I think is about keeping ideas in a jam jar in the cupboard under the stairs. That's what I say whenever anyone asks where ideas come from. I keep them in a jam jar.
So we need to break into your house, find the stairs, and steal your future books. I wanted to ask you quickly before we end out this episode. So you had Bloodsong initially was independently published and got picked up by a publisher. But since then, correct me if I'm wrong with this, you have continued to publish some independent self-published things. Is that correct?
Yeah, my novellas, I've got novellas.
The Seven Swords series.
The Seven Swords are actually traditionally published.
Oh, they're traditionally published. Oh, okay. Got the wrong ones.
Yeah, they're published by Subterranean Press. But the Raven Shadow novellas, some of them appeared in anthologies and magazines first. But then I'll put out my own version once the term limit is up. And a few short stories, and my Slab City Blues sci-fi noir novels, novellas, I should say. They were all self-published. I did actually float them past my agent at one point, but I don't think anyone was particularly interested. But there you go. I'm happy to, I really don't have any hesitation about it. If I think it'll work as a self-published project, that's what I'll do. And I've got, freelancers who I collaborate with, and illustrators. And,
that's right. You've done stuff with Sean King, right?
I think he's done most of my covers now.
Yeah,
Kevin.
He's awesome. He's great.
Yeah, we love Sean. Yeah. We love Sean.
I'll take credit for sure. Well, actually, he told me. I don't know if I'm taking too much credit here, but he did tell me, because I told him at one point, "You're not charging enough." And I said, well, I'm not complaining, but I do think
you're not the first one, and it was very exciting when he was able to actually finally go full time just last year, I think. But yeah, he wasn't. And
see, I'm on the other side telling him that he's charging too much. Lower your rates, especially Felix. I'm like, Felix, no, you're not that good. Just gotta
it's
lower
your
rates.
Mike and I have both used these guys early on, different artists and Sean, and we've had to like move on as they like grew up. Like John Anthony DiGiovanni did one for him, and then he did for me, and now he's doing sub press books for Bill. He's doing like
and Joe Abercrombie books as well.
Yeah, well, that they're Subterranean Press. They're the special edition Subterranean Press books, and now we can't afford him, and now we're like, damn. So we go to the next person. Though I did get John to do an interior illustration for the limited edition for my book 3.
Nice,
which is cool. Yeah,
he's phenomenal.
I love seeing artists succeed like that and get what they. As far as I'm concerned, they should be able to charge whatever they can get. And if I can't afford it, that's great.
Yes.
Go do your thing, and we'll find somebody. And now we're like praying that Felix doesn't get too famous.
Yeah, he's getting there.
Well, it does make
only a matter of time.
It does make me concerned about publicizing my cover artist for stuff, because I put out a tweet or whatever, and I'm saying like, oh, thanks for this artist for doing it or whatever. And then other people are like, oh, what's the name of that artist? And I know their authors as well. So John had never done any book covers until he did the one for which I have a picture of on my wall, Ghosts of Tomorrow for Mike, right? And
that was.
And I was like, Mike, who is that? I bought that piece of art because I loved it. And he's like, tell me who that is. He said no. And then he did. So
and now the secret's out.
We were the first. We were the first two to use him for book covers. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
well,
certainly was.
And Sean did that, and Sean did the typography for both of those too. Yeah.
I think with artists, if they are, spectacularly good, they will get snapped up. The list of people who can do what they do is actually pretty short. So they tend to get snapped up quite quickly.
100%.
I've always thought I had a pretty good eye for picking artists, but now I'm proving myself correct, and it sucks.
Your eye is too good.
I need to find somebody who's not so good.
I think this is a good spot to wrap this episode up. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to talk a little bit about your new book before we close this one out?
Yes, new book is called The Pariah. Did I bring it? No, I stupidly left it downstairs.
Mike's got one right there.
Yeah, just over my shoulder there.
Right there over his shoulder. And I left mine. I left mine at another house.
Pariah is out on the 24th of August in the States and Canada, and in the 26th in the UK. And it's a lot of very violent, grim, medieval fantasy fun.
It's getting tremendous reviews.
Good, but we'll talk about it more in the if we're doing another episode. Let's talk about it a bit more.
Yeah,
because I'd love to get into that, because something clicked there. Phenomenal. Like for me, that is hands down my favorite Anthony Ryan book. Oh, wow. which is saying something. That's kind of crazy.
Heck yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll get into that later, hopefully. Just a couple of quick listener comments before we close this one out. In our last episode, Dirk at the end put out a call for you to send in books that you thought were particularly rereadable, whether by us, by other people, or whatever. So I had a few people email him and message him with that, which was awesome. So the first comment comes from Sean Connolly, who says, "Hi Jed, Mike, Dirk, and Rob. My name is Sean Connolly. I'm a huge fan of both of your books and Wizards, Warriors, Words. I've been watching it since it launched, which is a long time ago now. So that's awesome." He says that as far as books from the stars of the show I've read Paternus and Wrath of Gods twice. My reason for reading them again was to refresh before War of Gods, but I wouldn't have been willing to reread if I didn't love the story. I'm a huge mythology buff as well, so rereading, I caught more references, and it was much more rewarding the second time around. He also says that he's read Blackstone Heart twice as well. So there you go, Fletch. And yeah, he said he also plans to reread The War Eternal before the release of Sins of the Mother and The Thunder Heist before its sequel as well. So thanks, Sean, much appreciated.
Those are books by Rob Hayes and Jed Herne, for
correct.
those of you who might not know.
Don't be fooled by the fact that it says Paternus by Dirk Ashton. It's not actually by him. Bender emailed in to say...
I wrote all of them.
Yeah, you did. Bender wrote in to say that his favorite rereads are Cradle by Will White, and he says he really appreciates following the progression of main characters in progression fantasy stories because it's very addictive to watch how they get more and more powerful throughout it. He also mentions The 10 Realms by Michael Chatfield, which I haven't read. He says that's a lit RPG equivalent to Cradle. Chronicles of the Fid by David H. Rees, which sounds kind of interesting. It's about a supervillain who's trying to bring accountability to a particular superhero, which sounds like a cool premise. And then there's books written by the team, Paternus again, and Never Die by Rob J. Hayes. And he says he really wants to be a named hero and go along with Whispering Blade on their various adventures. Great. So we did have a few more other people email in as well, but I'll keep it to those for now. So yeah, for the rest of you, if you do have any other suggestions for rereadable books, feel free to message in and we'll try to read them out on the show. And as for now, thank you everybody for listening. Thanks for supporting us on Patreon. If you are a Patreon supporter, you can go to www.patreon.com/wizardswarriorswords if you want to check that out and help support the show. Once again, thanks for listening. Anthony, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks, everybody.